stepped into a world so bright, where shadows whispered in the light. A girl with nothing, chasing dreams, where nothing is quite as it seems. They try to break me, try to hide my fire.
In the heart of the city, where the streets are always busy and the noise of life never fades, where buses roar like angry beasts and streetlights glow through the night, there lived a girl whose story almost nobody noticed. Her name was Ada Namani. She was 15 years old, quiet, gentle, and carrying a pain far heavier than someone her age should ever know. If you saw her walking down the street, you might think she was just another student going to school. But what nobody knew was that every step she took felt like walking through a storm, because the house she lived in was not a home, and the woman who was supposed to care for her hated her. This is the story of the girl they tried to break by sending her to a school they believed would destroy her future. But sometimes, the place meant to bury your dreams becomes the place where your destiny begins, before the cruelty, before the humiliation, before the long bus rides and empty stomach mornings. Ada's life was simple. She lived with her parents in a small apartment in Lagos. Her mother was a warm woman with laughter that filled every room. Every morning she braided Ada's hair neatly. "Education is your crown," her mother always said. "Never let anyone take it away from you." Ada believed those words. But life has a strange way of testing promises. One rainy night, her mother fell sick, very sick, and within weeks, the house that once echoed with laughter became silent. Ada was only 9 years old when her mother died. That was the first time she learned that life could be cruel, but at least she still had her father, and for a while, that was enough. 2 years later, Ada's father remarried. Her name was Felicia. She was elegant, confident, and always smiling. She also had a son named Kelvin, who was Ada's age. At first, Felicia acted kind. Too kind. She brought gifts. She cooked special meals. She hugged Ada like she truly cared. But sometimes, the most dangerous storms arrive wearing sunshine. Because once Ada's father started traveling more often for work, Felicia's kindness disappeared. The smiles vanished. The warmth turned cold. And slowly, Ada realized something painful. Felicia did not want her in the house, not as a daughter, not even as a child, but as a burden. Felicia loved only one person, her son, Kelvin. Kelvin had everything: expensive clothes, new phones, private tutors, and he attended one of the most expensive schools in the city, St. Christopher International College. Students there arrived in luxury cars. The classrooms had air conditioning. The students used tablets instead of notebooks. Ada once dreamed she would go there too, but dreams can be very fragile when someone else controls your life. One morning, Felicia walked into Ada's room and threw a uniform on the bed. The fabric was old, the color had faded. It looked like it had lived through many owners. Ada picked it up slowly. "Whose uniform is this?" she asked. Felicia folded her arms. "It's yours?" Ada's heart tightened. "I don't understand." Felicia's voice became cold. "From today, you will attend Ajagunle Community Secondary School." Ada blinked in confusion. "But Kelvin goes to St. Christopher." Kelvin, who was standing behind his mother, laughed loudly. "You think you're on my level?" Felicia leaned closer to Ada. "You should be grateful you're even going to school." And just like that, Ada's future was pushed in a completely different direction. Ajagunle Community Secondary School was nothing like St. Christopher. The building looked tired. Paint peeled off the walls like old scars. Some classrooms had broken windows. Students squeezed 3 or 4 to a desk. Some came without shoes. Some came without books. When Ada first walked through the school gate, she felt something heavy settle in her chest. Shame. Not because the students were poor, but because she knew why she had been sent there. Felicia didn't want her to succeed. She wanted her to disappear. School was not the hardest part. Home was. Every morning, Ada woke up before sunrise. She washed dishes, swept the floors, prepared breakfast for Kelvin. Sometimes she didn't even have time to eat. Then she took 2 crowded buses to school. Meanwhile, Kelvin's driver dropped him at St. Christopher in a shiny black car. Sometimes the car even passed Ada at the bus stop. Kelvin would look out the window, smile mockingly, and wave. One afternoon, a teacher noticed something unusual. His name was Mr. Okafor. He taught literature. While most students rushed home after school, Ada stayed behind reading an old textbook. Mr. Okafor watched quietly. Then he walked over. "You like books?" he asked. Ada nodded. "They help me forget things." Mr. Okafor smiled gently. "Books don't just help you forget." He paused. "They help you become someone new." That day he gave Ada an old novel. It changed everything. Weeks passed. Mr. Okafor began noticing something incredible. Ada was brilliant. Her essays were powerful. Her imagination was deep. Her writing carried emotion that many adults could not express. But there was one problem. Ada didn't believe in herself. Years of rejection had convinced her she was nothing special. So Mr. Okafor told her something that sounded impossible. "There is a national scholarship competition next year." Ada shook her head immediately. "I can't compete with rich students." Mr. Okafor leaned forward. "Greatness does not belong to the rich." He smiled. "It belongs to the determined." For the first time in years, Ada felt hope. Ada began studying late at night. After finishing all her chores, after everyone slept, she read and read and read. Sometimes she studied until 2 a.m. Sometimes she fell asleep on her books, but she kept going, because deep inside her heart, a quiet voice whispered, "Maybe, just maybe, you can change your story." Months later, the day arrived. The National Scholarship Examination. Thousands of students from elite schools gathered. Many had private tutors, many wore expensive uniforms. Ada arrived wearing her faded uniform. Some students laughed, but Ada ignored them because she remembered something important. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She was there to fight for her future. So she wrote, every answer filled with determination, every essay filled with the pain she had endured. Weeks later, the results were posted. Students crowded around the notice board. Ada's hands trembled as she searched the list. Her eyes scanned line after line, then she froze. At the very top, rank 1, Ada Namani. For a moment the world went silent, then the entire school erupted in cheers. Mr. Okafor raised his hands proudly. "You did it, Ada!" Tears streamed down her face. For the first time in years, they were tears of joy. That evening, Ada walked into the house holding the scholarship letter. Felicia opened it. Her face turned pale. Kelvin stared in disbelief. The scholarship offered Ada full admission to St. Christopher International College, the same school Kelvin attended. Felicia tried to argue, tried to protest, but it was too late. Ada's father had already been contacted. For the first time, Felicia had no power. The next morning, something unbelievable happened. Ada sat inside the same car that once drove past her at the bus stop. Kelvin sat beside her silently. For once, he had nothing to say. As the car moved through the busy streets of Lagos, Ada looked out the window, the same city, the same roads. But everything felt different. She whispered quietly, "Mom, I made it." And the girl they tried to bury in a poor school became the brightest student the city had ever seen. Never underestimate the quiet child in the corner, because sometimes the people the world ignores the most are the ones who will one day change it forever.